From Fox 32 Chicago Sports, this is Chicago Sports Tonight.
Hi, everyone, and welcome into Chicago Sports Tonight. The Super Bowl is set, and as Ben Johnson said, the rest of the NFL fell short and is now looking ahead to 2026 to make it to the final Sunday. Joined tonight by Tina Wynn, 670 The Score's David Haugh, and the big media's Herb Howard. I'm Cassie Carlson, and we keep hearing how this Bears team was so special this year, and it's going to be hard to get back to the playoffs next year. There were even times where we were wondering, was this a good Bears team or just a lucky Bears team? Now that it's over, Tina, what's your take on it?
Well, I think this is a team that there was some luck involved here. You look at the 33 takeaways, nearly 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. There was some luck involved in this magical season, but you look at the road ahead for this team, right? A lot more hope and optimism, especially with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. They definitely have the weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But I look at this and ask myself, how do you avoid being what the Washington Commanders became this year, right? Where last year we saw a great season from them, a magical season, and they kind of fell off this year. So that's what I look for in this offense.
You look at what's left, and the Bears can believe that they are a Super Bowl caliber team, and that's the way they need to approach this offseason. Every decision they make should be with that in mind. That's got to be the standard. And I think when you heard from Ben Johnson earlier this week, you saw and heard everything is going in the right direction. So, yes, they need some tweaks. Yes, they need this and they need that. But they have the quarterback, they have the head coach, and in the NFL, when you have that kind of marriage, that strong of a marriage between the head coach and the quarterback, you've got a shot every year.
This is a good team that should contend not only next year, but contend for years going forward. And I look at their player development, how they've developed their players. You look at the ascension of players like Darnell Wright, among others, and you say, this is a coaching staff that knows how to develop talent. They need to acquire more talent. They're at the point now where they're looking to finish a complete Super Bowl contending roster. Different from what Ryan Poles has done before when he's tried to reset, start over. Now he's looking to finish the roster to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
And different because the Bears will have the 25th pick in the NFL draft. First time since 2022 that they don't have a top 10 pick. They also have 27 free agents on the current roster, but they are considered contenders. However, that doesn't change how they'll approach personnel decisions.
Yeah, you just have more constraints, but at the same time, I don't think the process changes. You're going to identify the guys that fit what we want in our football team, which Coach hit, and you just keep trying to acquire those players. We know what they look like, we know how they act, they know how they talk, and we'll continue to do that. I think that's part of the thing is, one, can you self-evaluate and be critical of yourself and your team to make sure that you know what you have in the building. I think when you see it across the league all the time, you panic and you want to do crazy things that everybody else wants you to do. It leads to some situations that you can't get out of. So we want to stay flexible. We want to stay open-minded. We want to stay committed to building this team the right way because I think that's the best way to sustain success.
All right, let's start with free agency. 27 free agents on last year's roster. That includes 4 safeties. The 2 big names, Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. And the way we're talking, it seems like they're not going to be able to keep both. So you're going either or. Do you go for the veteran like Kevin Byard, who wants to stay in Chicago? Ryan Poles said he had no problem saying he would love to bring him back to the Bears. Or do you go for the young guy in Jaquan Brisker?
Well, I know with Kevin Byard, right, people will say the age, but he is such a valuable veteran. 7 interceptions this year, 93 tackles in all-pro season. I mean, I think he's so valuable to this defensive unit. And Jaquan Brisker, to me, the last game against LA here, I think one of his best, but he's injury prone. He's been in and out of the lineup.
I also think Kevin Byard gives you a chance to continue the momentum on your defense. Even though you're starting over, he is a leader in the backfield, and I think definitely you have to be concerned about age. But with Jaquan Brisker, the kind of contract he likely will command in free agency is probably more expensive, and there's more risk involved just because of the questions surrounding his health and his future. It's not a premium position. That's why I think you're probably better off committing to Kevin Byard.
Jaquan chose a great time to put his very best game on tape, right? And he deserves the money that he's going to get. But KB's a game changer, right? He's a back end. He's a center fielder guy that he can take the ball away. We saw him do it more than anybody else in terms of interceptions all season long. He's a game changer. You keep him if you can.
Yeah, I think his leadership in the locker room is invaluable. Herb, I want to go back to you because you were the one to ask Ryan Poles about the personnel decisions that he's going to have in front of him and how it changes. There is a strong feeling from the outside that DJ Moore might not be on this roster. Do you believe that he will be back in the locker room, given the fact how the season ended? And we haven't heard from DJ Moore since that last interception.
Yeah, I do believe that DJ will be back. I think he should be back. I think Ryan Poles and certainly Coach Johnson should want him back. He's a leader in that team. He's one of the toughest people, if not the toughest person on that football team. He shows up every single week. He continues to make dynamic plays. I understand the contract and what the position that they're in, but I think you need DJ Moore on this football team.
What if it means you trade DJ Moore and you can get Max Crosby, David?
Oh, boy. If that's either or, that is a tough one, Cassie.
He might be part of that package.
That changes the equation.
You threw his name out to Poles, and he didn't know what to do.
You get Max Crosby, and you change the type of team that you are because now you're coming at the quarterback from both sides. I hate to move on from a guy in DJ Moore that is a consummate pro, I believe, and had two of the biggest catches of last season, of the last two decades of seasons. Yeah. But that's a different equation if you're talking about either Max Crosby or DJ Moore.
I love DJ Moore. If you ask me which one they need more, they need DJ Moore or Max Crosby more. Because of Luther Burden, because of Rome Odunze and Colston Loveland, they need Max Crosby more.
Yes. You've covered Max Crosby. Would you like to see him as a Bear?
I have covered Max Crosby, and my goodness, his mentality, the way he approaches the game, he is relentless. Great guy to cover as well. I will say, from what I'm hearing out of Vegas, though, from my time there and talking to some people, the Raiders have made it clear they don't want to trade him now. They are going through a tough time now because at the end of the game, he wanted to play. They wanted to hold him out. But here's the thing with the Raiders. If they get the head coaching hire right, which I know a lot of coaching changes there in Las Vegas, but they've got the #1 overall pick and go out and get a quarterback. They've got $100 million in cap space. They could build this thing up, and there is a path forward there in Las Vegas. So it'll be interesting to see how this does pan out.
All right, if you're looking at left tackle, edge rusher, defensive tackle, what's the main priority in your eyes? Given Ozzie Trapillo, he's going to be out deep into next season, Poles said.
I think edge rusher is #1 because I think you can dictate the course of a game and wreck game plans more that way. Look at left tackle. It would be a priority, but I think it's #2 because you started 4 guys at that position this year, and your offense was still a top 10 offense. So I definitely believe that. And then you've got to fortify your defensive front because there just needs to be more game changers there.
Couldn't agree more. It's got to be the edge rusher. You have to find a way to consistently impact the quarterback on a down-in, down-out basis. The Bears were not able to do that. They got to find a way to get that done.
Edge rusher, I think Montez Sweat is more of a #2 guy. I think if you get someone else on that defensive line, it takes the attention off of him so he could be a better player. So I'm going to go edge rusher.
Yeah, I can't imagine how many teams were game planning of chipping Montez Sweat too much. It seemed like we were always talking about that against opponents, but the Bears didn't have that threat on the defensive line. That would be my vote too.
I'm really encouraged about the steps he took this year. I'm Caleb Williams' #1 believer. You know, I have a lot of faith in him, what he's capable of doing, and the player that he's still striving to become.
Exactly the words you want to hear from Ben Johnson. Our Bears discussion is brought to you in high definition by Xfinity, introducing the 5-year price guarantee, one consistent internet price for the next 5 years guaranteed. And for a duo that started with no relationship a year ago to be gushing over each other by the end of the season, Herb, this is the main reason why I feel like there is so much promise for year 2 of these two working together.
Absolutely. You got to love what Coach Johnson was able to do with Caleb in his first year, and you can only imagine what he's going to be able to do in year 2, 3, and 4 going forward. I think this matchup, this marriage is going to be one made in heaven, if you will, for some time to come. I think ultimately they'll keep the Bears a Super Bowl contender for years to come.
I mean, in a league where you need the quarterback and the head coach, or you need that pairing to go really well for them to win consistently, this is that you're looking at it. You look at the growth that we've seen from Caleb Williams, even year 1 in the NFL, right? Now he's got support. Now he's got a head coach, a guy that can really direct, guide, and coach him. I think that's huge. And also, it's just been so interesting to see this relationship evolve over the course of the season here. They definitely have a level of trust here now together.
Ryan Poles did say this, that you would see the special as long as he did the other things right. You'd like to see a little bit more progress in the layups, if you will, the easy passes where he was inaccurate. You'd like to see the numbers come up in terms of completion percentage. But best case scenario, Caleb Williams in season 3 is an MVP contender. I think realistically, you want him to be a top 10 quarterback and to take care of the football and avoid the sacks as well as he did in his second season, where a lot of the decisions he made were underrated but were the right ones, and he kept the Bears out of harm's way, and that was really an important part of their offense.
Yeah, this relationship is no longer fragile. Remember when we all kind of laughed about that when Caleb Williams said it? We're like, what a word, what a way to interpret it. But I feel like, as you mentioned, there is trust between the two, and I use the comparison of, learning a new offense is learning a new language. He was in Ben Johnson 101. He graduated graduates and goes to Ben Johnson 201, 102, whatever you want to call it next year. And so the information that he has is only going to make him that much better. And I think, David, as you were saying, the layups, all those simple things, we wanted to see him take the next step. Seeing the special is one thing, but what to you was the most promising thing that we saw that's going to carry over?
You were never out of a game. Yeah. Your offense is never going to be overmatched, and I think you always feel like you have a chance when you have a quarterback like Caleb Williams. The next step also is elevating everyone around him. The receiving core that might be the fourth best in their own division, you need to have him be the guy that makes every receiver better. In stride passes, so you don't have to stop a half step and so those yards after the catch, keep the chains moving and keep your numbers better. So I think those are the next steps.
I go back to what Coach Johnson said when he first got here. He's not talking about winning games. He was talking about how much they're going to win games by and talking about dominating other teams. To do that, Caleb Williams is going to have to be able to start faster, hit those layups, be more consistent so that they can play with a lead and they can really run off on teams as opposed to coming back on teams. I think that's the next thing.
Remember when you start a season and you're like, all right, what tier is this quarterback in? And it was like, we don't have enough information about Caleb Williams because last year was a wash. Now seeing the 7 fourth quarter comebacks that he had, the overtime throws to walk it off against the Packers, what tier do you feel like they'll be talking about him being in going into this offseason?
Well, first off, he's certainly not a backup, and he's better than a starter. I'm going to say right now he's elite, but as David, you were mentioning, I mean, he's got that clutch factor, things that you cannot teach, right, to make him really an MVP caliber kind of quarterback.
I think he's a second-tier quarterback. He's just outside maybe the best in football, but he's got a chance to be with a good season and good coaching. You know he's going to get that. Of being an MVP candidate, being in the conversation if things go a certain way. If he does all the magic and all the special next year in the way that he did this year and does those little things, he will be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and I think that's where you want him to be.
Hard to imagine for a Bears quarterback.
Impossible to imagine for him. You can only imagine it. Like you can only imagine it. I think that he has very elite traits. I don't think he's elite just yet. I think he has elite traits. He certainly can become elite, but he's got to do the small things. He's got to start to enjoy the boring things about being a quarterback, the footwork, the keeping your elbow up, the opening your hips, the stepping where you throw. If he gets the boring thing, if he falls in love with the boring things and he's more consistent on his accuracy, he can be as good as he wants to be.
One of the things that's promising, though, is just the preparation that all of his teammates pointed out going into the wild card game, that they saw it elevate in year 2, being the first car in the parking lot, always carrying around a notebook. Like, those, to me, are promising things that we never saw from year 1, which is why I believe he now gets it. He gets what it's going to take.
He gets it, and I think that's also roster building, is surrounding him with veterans who set that example, and he does not want to disappoint. That peer pressure, I think, brings out the best in Caleb Williams in terms of the professional. On the field, you see what he's capable of doing because he just has that innate natural talent. And I think as a result, he has become, you talk about tiers, he's a quarterback you win because of.
Welcome back. Our Around the NFC North discussion is brought to you by your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Kia dealers. Visit kia.com to discover movement that inspires. Brian Flores re-signs in Minnesota as the Vikings defensive coordinator. He can still leave for a head coaching gig. Packers lose their defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, who becomes the Dolphins head coach. And Detroit hires former Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing as their OC. You look at all these moves across the division, there could be more within the Bears. Which will have the greatest impact on the results next season, Tina?
Well, right now, I want to say Jeff Hafley leaving Green Bay. I think he had a huge impact on that defense, had those guys playing super aggressive, fast. They were better on third down and red zone as well. So I'm going to say Jeff Hafley in Green Bay.
I think that Dan Campbell getting an offensive coordinator that was Ben Johnson's best friend. Best man in his wedding. You can't get Ben Johnson. You better get the best man to Ben Johnson, or the closest thing. So the Lions really did take a step backward, and they really showed you the value of elite play callers on both sides of the ball, I feel like, and they just never really recovered from his loss. So I think I'm watching that one close.
Ben Johnson had to have put in a word about his friend Dan Campbell. Like, that to me was like, all right, I feel like he was like, here, you should take this guy.
Makes sense. Listen, you could definitely tell that they had lost a huge piece of their coaching staff, and you showed in their performance on the field. They've got explosive players all over that offense. They need a guy that can come in there and coordinate them to the best of their ability so they can continue to put up points.
Yeah, I'm going with Petzing as well. Also his experience being an OC and play caller in Arizona. Welcome back to Chicago Sports Tonight. This is one of those seasons that Chicago will talk about forever, and even the players said they'll reminisce on when they retire. Some of those games you think about, Packers beating them twice at Soldier Field, walking it off. I'm trying to think of any of the other ones. Those are the main ones. Overtime against the Rams, like all things that you can just, those pictures and images that lay in your mind forever. The most fun I've had covering this team in 4 seasons, and I use the term magical to describe this year in one word, but there are so many plays and highlights that you can pick from. Herb, what was your favorite or most memorable?
I'll go back. I'll probably have the first one chronologically. I go back to Vegas, and I got Josh Blackwell's blocked field goal because that kind of kicked off the whole cardiac Bears thing. That kind of got them going. They got them back to 500 for the record. If they started 0-2, it's a very close game. You go out there and you lose to the Raiders, and you come back home 1-3. I think you're looking at a different season in terms of how it takes off. I think that game allowed them to start to believe in what they could do, and they start to give them that belief that they can pull things out late, even if it didn't seem like they could.
I think we looked at this assignment the same way, Herb, because in terms of impactful plays, that was the one. If they hit that field goal, the Bears are staring at 1-3 with an off week, hearing for 2 weeks in Chicago how they're the same old Bears. Same old Bears. And that belief that was so powerful late in the season may not have been built up to that point. I think that, to me, was the most impactful play that I'll think of. As far as the most memorable one, it's hard to get past the first Packer walk-off.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's just electric. But going back to what you guys both said about Vegas, I'll never forget being in that locker room because it was the echoed message throughout everyone that said we are no longer the same old Bears. And that resonated in my mind for the entire year. That Ben Johnson clearly made that a point to say in one of his good, better, bests. And so that just was a theme week after week. And you're right, we came back to the bye week. Then you go to Washington, you're like, all right, they can go in and they can rewrite the history of the Hail Mary. So that was why it was so impactful for me.
And Ben talked about Vegas a few months ago towards the end of the season, how much that was kind of the turning point that really kind of sparked him and helped him as a head coach believe, hey, this team's really believing in what we're doing. We've instilling the right belief for this team. They really know that they can.
I remember before the season, somebody was asking me about, Ben Johnson's temperament and how to play in the locker room and how will guys respond to it. And I said, they'll respond to it just fine if they're winning games. If they come out and they go 1-3, then you pressing on me and pressing on me gets real old, real fast. Guys start to buy into it, even the good, better, best thing.
Right. Winning cures all. What's yours,
I was going to say, okay, mine is, I think you may have just mentioned it, the first rematch with the Packers at Soldier Field where the Bears won 22-16 in overtime, and it was Caleb Williams to DJ Moore, the 46-yard touchdown pass here. And you got to remember here, it's freezing out there, okay? And the ball, it's essentially rock hard here. By the time it hits DJ Moore, this is my memorable moment of the season.
What's more memorable? What he said after? That's going to be in every highlight video for the rest of eternity. Or the cheese grater hats that went viral after that. I mean, you can't make that up, and that scene was incredible.
All perfect throw, perfect catch, and the perfect guy to burn.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
Guy to burn.
Oh,
right.
Man, Nixon talked so much stuff, and I just love how DJ right there, how he just catches the ball, he knows as he walked it off, and he just rolls over and lets the ball fall out of his hand. Like, it was just perfect. It was perfect.
I remember one of the photographers being like, I saw DJ Moore laying there, and I was like, oh my gosh, the game's over. I can go up to him and get that shot. That's going to be so iconic. Mine is going to be back in Cincinnati with Caleb Williams hitting Colston Loveland with 17 seconds left for a 58-yard catch-and-run touchdown. And why this was so pivotal to me, similar to the reasons of Vegas, is because all the talk was about Caleb Williams' inaccuracy, Colston Loveland. Was he going to be anything compared to Tyler Warren at the time? And I felt like this debunked all of it. To see your second-year quarterback go to your first-round pick, your top 10 pick and a tight end that was controversial up to that time, it was one of those electric moments, and we saw Colston Loveland form into the tight end he was from that point on. That is another locker room. Herb, were you there that week?
No, I was not in Cincinnati.
That was another locker room where the adrenaline was pumping through these guys so much that they couldn't stand up. They couldn't take their pads off. And that's when I truly felt like this team proved to themselves that they could hang in a shootout, and it was important for the offense to know that.
Because they gave up 42 points and won.
Joe Flacco.
To Joe Flacco, and they came back and won on the road, and that was Colston Loveland's arrival, justifying the draft pick. There was so much in that one play. The Ben Johnson offense, the Ryan Poles draft pick, saving the defense and being the offense that would carry this team.
Colston Loveland announced himself to the National Football League. Not only can I get open and run the route, make the catch, I can run through all of these guys and then have the speed to finish it as well. Phenomenal play.
one of those seasons that we will never forget. All these moments that we will continue to highlight over the offseason, because I feel like people already can't wait for what's to come next year.
And it doesn't feel like it's the end of a season. It feels like it's the beginning of an era.
Well, it's also the NFL Combine in less than a month, so it's the beginning of the new season. That is going to do it for tonight. For David Haugh, Tina Nguyen, Herb Howard, I'm Cassie Carlson. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow for a Monday edition of Chicago Sports Tonight.